The key to Scottie Scheffler's incredible success is actually much simpler than you might think. So simple, in fact, that you could try it too. And just by attempting it, you'd likely become a better golfer. You'd almost certainly shoot lower scores. And all of this without making major changes to your swing. What's so fascinating about this strategy is that it's not new. It was pioneered decades ago by another Texan, the legendary Ben Hogan. Hogan wasn't shy about sharing his approach. He openly talked about it, and his fellow pros were fully aware of what he was doing. Yet, most of them couldn't replicate it. That is, until Scottie Scheffler came along. Scottie instinctively adapted Hogan's philosophy to fit his own game, and it propelled him to one of the most dominant seasons golf has ever seen. If we look back, 1948 was Hogan's most glorious year in golf. He stormed his way to 3 major titles, and his strategy became the stuff of legend. Fast forward to this year, when it became clear that Scottie Scheffler was putting together one of the most impressive seasons since Tiger Woods. I decided to take a deep dive into his game to understand what was making him so good. During his historic stretch, where he won the Masters, the Players' Championship, and strung together multiple top finishes, I analyzed every single one of his shots, all 1,353 of them. I tracked where his ball landed, how close it finished to the hole, and what decisions he made along the way. It took an eternity, but the deeper I went, the more I noticed a fascinating trend. A trend I started calling Scottie's green zone strategy. It wasn't just about hitting greens in regulation, though he does that exceptionally well. The secret lay in how he approached the greens, aiming for specific areas that maximize his chances of success while minimizing risks. Here's the essence of the strategy. Scottie isn't aiming directly at pins. He's not even focusing on precise spots. Instead, he's targeting broad zones on the green that shift depending on the pin location. And the key here is that Scottie often plays to the opposite side of the green from the pin. If the pin is on the front, Scottie's target is further back. If the pin is tucked left, he'll aim right. By doing this, he avoids the most dangerous spots around the green, known as red zones. Areas where missing can lead to difficult up and downs or outright disaster. Let's break it down further. Imagine the pin is on the front edge of the green. Most golfers, from amateurs to pros, make the same mistake. They aim directly at the pin. If their shot comes up even a little short, they've left themselves in the worst possible position, short-sighted with almost no green to work with. Scottie avoids this trap entirely. When the pin is at the front, he deliberately plays long. In fact, during the season, more than 60% of his shots to front pins ended up beyond the hole. This approach might mean slightly longer birdie putts, but it also drastically reduces the chance of missing in those dreaded red zones. Here's the impact. When the pin was at the front of the green, Scottie hit the green 82% of the time, nearly 25% higher than the tour average from the same distances. By staying disciplined and playing long, he gave himself significantly more birdie opportunities while avoiding costly mistakes. This leads to the first major takeaway you can learn from Scottie. When the pin is up front, don't aim short. Instead, club up and play past the pin. You'll find yourself in safer spots, with far fewer tough chips and pitches to recover from. But Scottie's strategy doesn't stop there. As I analyzed more of his shots, I noticed how he adapted his green zones depending on the pin location. For instance, when the pin was in the front middle, middle, or front right positions, what I call Scottie's comfort zones, his approach was remarkably consistent. In these situations, Scottie's green zone was typically the front right quadrant of the green, regardless of the pin's exact location. Whether the pin was front right or center, he'd hit his stock fade to a similar area, giving himself a consistent look at birdie. The stats back this up. To front right pins, 72% of Scottie's shots ended in the same front right section of the green. To middle pins, 60% of his shots finished in this zone. Even to front middle pins, where the target is less obvious, Scottie hit 68% of his shots in the same safe area. It's a pattern of precision and discipline that most players simply can't replicate. However, things got more interesting when the pin was on the left side of the green. For Scottie, these are trickier because of his natural fade and the tilted nature of dispersion patterns. From long range, Scottie would play it safe, hitting to the middle or slightly right of the green. He hit the green in regulation about 70% of the time when pins were left. A touch below his overall average, but still remarkably solid. As he moved closer to scoring zones though, Scottie began to tweak his strategy. He never aimed directly at the pin, but he subtly shifted his target toward the left side of his green zone. This allowed him to reduce short side misses and still leave himself makeable birdie putts. For example, when the pin was middle left, Scottie's most common miss was just short right, a much safer spot than missing left and short-siding himself. He landed in this short right zone 59% of the time to middle left pins, a testament to his ability to manage risk while still giving himself opportunities to score. This adaptability, the ability to tweak his green zones while maintaining his core strategy, is what sets Scottie apart. It's not about chasing pins recklessly or always taking the aggressive route. Instead, it's about staying disciplined and playing the percentages, even when the stakes are high. Scottie's green zone strategy wasn't just about staying disciplined with his targets. It also showed his willingness to trust in other parts of his game, particularly his putting and short game. While many players might feel the pressure to get closer to pins for easier birdie chances, Scottie was content to play for longer putts, knowing that his strategy gave him a statistical edge over time. This discipline shone through in high-pressure moments. Take a challenging par 3 for instance. While other players might get tempted to flirt with a tucked pin position, Scottie would often aim for the center of the green, trusting his ability to two-putt for par or occasionally roll in a birdie. It's this patient, calculated approach that allowed Scottie to excel in areas where others struggled. In fact, he ranked inside the top third on tour in three-putt avoidance in both 2023 and 2024, a testament to his precision with the flat stick. By consistently leaving himself manageable first putts, he avoided the kind of compounding errors that can derail a round. Now, there's one exception to Scottie's green zone strategy that's worth noting. Occasionally, when a pin was located in a spot where there simply wasn't a safe miss, say a par 3 surrounded by bunkers or water, Scottie would adapt by aiming for the heart of the green and treating it as a no-fault zone. This approach ties into a broader principle of his game, knowing when to take risks and when to play it safe. On some holes, like reachable par 5s, Scottie might go for the green in 2 if the reward outweighed the risk. But on holes where the margin for error was razor thin, he wouldn't hesitate to play conservatively, laying up to a comfortable distance or aiming for the safest part of the green. This mindset isn't just about hitting better shots. It's about eliminating mental clutter. By sticking to his plan, Scottie avoided second-guessing himself or overthinking his decisions. He gave himself clear, manageable goals for each shot, and that clarity translated into consistent results. But Scottie's brilliance doesn't just come down to strategy. His ability to execute the plan is what truly sets him apart. For example, his proximity to the hole on approach shots ranked among the best on tour. When combined with his ability to avoid short-siding himself, this meant he was constantly giving himself realistic chances at birdie while minimizing the risk of bogey. Let's take a closer look at the numbers. In 2024, Scottie's proximity to the hole from 150 to 175 yards was nearly 5 feet better than the tour average. That might not sound like much, but over the course of a season, it adds up to dozens of extra birdie opportunities. And when you pair that with his ability to hit greens from challenging positions, it becomes clear why he was so tough to beat. Another fascinating aspect of Scottie's game is how much trust he places in his short game. Unlike some players who dread the thought of missing greens, Scottie embraces it. He knows that even when he ends up in a bunker or a tricky spot, he has the skills to get up and down. In fact, there were moments during his dominant stretch when Scottie's short game became his biggest weapon. On tough par 4s or long par 3s, where others might try to force shots onto the green, Scottie was willing to miss in a spot that left him an easier recovery. It's a philosophy his caddy, Ted Scott, summed up perfectly. Sometimes the smartest play isn't hitting the green. It's leaving yourself in a spot where you can still make par. This trust in his short game also gave Scottie the freedom to aim for safer zones on the green. He didn't need to take unnecessary risks, because he knew he could rely on his wedge play to bail him out when needed. And that's the beauty of Scottie's approach. It's not flashy or overly complicated. It's about doing the little things right, over and over again. By avoiding big mistakes and staying patient, he was able to let his opponents make the errors, while he steadily climbed the leaderboard. This philosophy mirrors the approach of Ben Hogan, who famously said, "The most important shot in golf is the next one." Like Hogan, Scottie is relentlessly focused on staying in the moment and executing his plan, no matter the situation. For amateur golfers, there's so much to learn from Scottie's green zone strategy. You don't need to hit the ball 300 yards or sink 20-foot putts to improve your game. Instead, focus on hitting the safe spots, avoiding the short side, and playing to your strengths. Start by identifying your own green zones. Where are the safe areas on each hole? Where can you miss without bringing trouble into play? Once you understand this, you can begin to build your own version of Scottie's strategy, one that tilts the odds in your favor. Of course, sticking to this kind of disciplined approach is easier said than done. It requires patience, self-control, and a willingness to trust the process, even when the results don't come immediately. But as Scottie has proven, the rewards are well worth it. By following this strategy, Scottie Scheffler transformed himself from a promising young player into one of the most consistent and dominant golfers on tour. And while we may never match his skill level, we can all take a page out of his playbook by committing to smarter, more strategic golf. That's the real secret to Scottie's success. Not just his talent, but his ability to stay disciplined, trust his plan, and execute it with precision. So, the next time you're on the course, channel your inner Scottie Scheffler, aim for the safe zones, avoid the red zones, and let your next shot be your best one.